happening. Now, in order for them to get that, Chiefs had to part away with their first-round pick, which is number 29, and the teams are going to exchange third-round picks, and the Chiefs are going to send the lower of their two 2020 second-round picks. Now, it was going to be hard for the Seahawks to make that offer because Russell Wilson's contract. And I think if of any of the quarterbacks that you're going to build around with the draft, and it drafted well over the last couple of years in that aspect, you're going to trust the Seahawks and you're going to trust Russell Wilson because he's a top 5 quarterback. But then also, if you look at the quarterbacks that make a top 5 money, almost none of them made the playoffs last season. So, I mean, at some point, there's going to be a regression to the mean, I think. But then the salary cap goes up. So then, of course, there is more room for a quarterback of that nature to be signed for that ridiculous contract. And overall, it's a steal to sign him at this price because, again, you never know. It seems to be going up 8 to 10%, the salary cap every year in the NFL. So over time, it seems to be a bargain, especially for a 30-year-old quarterback. And then going on the topic today of you're making your mind up one way or another, Josh Gordon. Back in the news again. And look, he's serving an indefinite NFL suspension, right? And he officially signed his restricted free agent tender. So if Gordon is reinstated, he's going to be under contract with the Patriots for this year and earn a base salary of $2.025 million. I think we've made up our minds as a society where Josh Gordon stands, right? You know, Stephen A. Smith, stay off the weed. I mean, that's one. That's one camp. And the other camp is, and this is probably coming from people of where I live, here in Portland, Oregon. Legalize weed, bro. Look, I get it. There are people that I know, and actually I mean that sincerely. Yeah, I don't really partake in that. That isn't something that I care about. But I am surrounded by people in some circles that happen to do that on a daily basis. It helps them cope. It helps them relax. It helps relieve anxiety. So much of the pressures of today's society, and with an opioid crisis that, and as we've seen, I don't know if you guys saw the news today, a big pharma company is going to be indicted on charges of overexposure to opioids, which is pretty fascinating that that's actually happening to a company of that size. And from a business perspective, if you have stock in that company, I would probably look to sell as quickly as possible. Or if you're, a buyer, go to buy. But again, that's not necessarily my level of expertise. But I think it's a society. You either have made up your mind on Josh Gordon and says, you know what, he's a lost cause. Forget about this guy. He has every opportunity to make millions of dollars. And he's blowing it away by smoking what? Marijuana? Why? Or you're looking at the other camp, which also presents a valid argument. Look, he is using that marijuana to self-medicate and try to become the better person. And trying to, well, not necessarily be a better person, but at least maintain a level of, I can be myself. And that's the argument that, as of now, is tough. Because right now the rules say, in the NFL, you can't do it. Don't do it. And it isn't until several times down the line where you're even placed in the drug program, where you're going to be tested constantly. And people are saying, look, if I had the opportunity to make millions of dollars, I'm not doing that. No way, no how. But yeah, because that's you. Joe Schmo, making $40,000 a year, $50,000 a year. Looking at that opportunity and saying, yeah, I'm not going to do it. But yeah, put yourself in that particular shoe. A star wide receiver with all the potential in the world to be the best wide receiver in the league. And all the pressures and other extracurriculars that come outside of that. It's a problem. And sometimes athletes use substances to medicate themselves. It doesn't have to be alcohol. Or it doesn't have to be marijuana. It could be alcohol. It could be other drugs. Again, I'm not trying to convince you either way. And again, I'm not trying to be a homer living here in Portland. But what I am saying is you've made up your mind as to who you think Josh Gordon is and who you think he will be. And I think it's hard to convince the other camp, otherwise. I think it's impossible. But that's why we debate. I mean, that's why these debate shows exist on ESPN. Fox Sports 1. Newly formed DAZN. Check that out. I think people are willing to listen to a conversation where there's actually some level of common ground. And when you involve things like drugs, when you involve things like politics, when you involve things that, based off how you grew up and your environment and what you followed, you're going to have certain biases as a fan. Fan is short for fanatic. As I said on a previous piece of my podcast, on a previous episode of a podcast. Fan is short for fanatic because we're all crazy for our team. And in particular with Frank Clark, if I'm not mistaken, he was accused for domestic abuse. Which, it's a tough thing to discuss, right? It is, because it's a fine line between, and again, and this is just the general population. What are you willing to support? Your team, which may have a couple bad eggs on it, or not? And people going off saying, look, the Chiefs have no right of signing this type of player, particularly after they kicked off Kareem Hunt. I'm not saying that domestic abuse is right. It's absolutely not. And I'm not here to I'm not here to promote that, obviously. It's not the type of person I am. It's clearly, obviously wrong. But in the NFL, here's the harsh truth. If you're good enough, you're going to get another opportunity, just like Kareem Hunt did. He signed with the Browns. He's suspended for 8 games, so when he comes back, the Browns are going to cheer for him in that fashion. They're going to cheer for him saying, yes, we have a player that can get us out of obscurity and to potentially an 8-win season, if not 9, 10, over maybe 11 wins. I know sports is a popular culture item. We want to idolize heroes because they seem larger than life and can achieve things that we are unable to. The normal person, I would say, the average human, is unable to achieve. And we strive for a level where we want to say, yeah, that guy right there, he's an amazing player, and he's also an amazing person. Because we can connect with sports just as good as anything. Because if you grew up in a certain area, you root for certain teams. Or if your family is from some place, you root for that team. Or in my case, you just fell in love with the sport in general, and that was the first team you ever saw on TV. So I fell in love with the Bills. You can say, yes, a player shouldn't be signed for XYZ. But you know who doesn't care? You know, at least that's the perception anyway right now? The NFL. They don't care. They want your truth. They want to look like they don't care, right? But we also at the same time give second chances to people. It's what we do. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but we do. It is a difficult thing to debate. It not necessarily the abuse part, obviously. That's not debatable. But at what point do NFL teams say, you know what, is it going to be either like a one and done type of deal? Or are you going to continue to give opportunities to people that may not deserve them? This is a privilege. It should be a privilege to play professional sports. But at the end of the day, as I've said, it's if you're talented enough, or if you're great enough, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh chances will be given to you. That's just the truth. Harsh. Yes. 100%. But that's the truth. How do you affect that? I think that's a deeper conversation, and not enough time on this podcast to cover that. But and it seems that every team has one or two bad eggs. I'm not saying that doesn't justify anything in any way, shape, or form. Because we could be critical of players that have done X, Y, and Z. You could point to particularly two franchises, especially over the last couple seasons, dating back a while. You could point to the Cowboys, who have given second chances to great talents, and the Bengals. There's two franchises who name by name, yes, have potential for a deep playoff run, but overall they don't meet expectations. Maybe in part due to signing these players. I don't know. It's a fascinating conversation to talk about, and again, not enough time to continue deep diving, at least not this particular week. You know, when I come back, let's see what's on the sports tab. I mean, it's hard to really discuss a lot. I mean, you could talk about the mock draft, or you could talk about the NFL draft. I'm going to see what's here. I'm going to give myself, I don't know, a minute and a half. See what's going on. See what else is out there to discuss. Because I'm not going to force topics down your throat, especially topics that I know I didn't do any research on. But hey, if you're listening, why not? I mean, let's talk about all these things here.